Hello, thanks for joining me today. Our story is God's mercy in making us face the impossible, found shortly after Genesis 17:22. Now, God is not content for us just to understand the idea that nothing is too hard for the Lord, found in Jeremiah 32:17. He wants us to have the overwhelming joy of experiencing it. But the sometimes agonizing period between His promise and His provision can push us to the brink of what we think we can believe, as it did with Abraham and Sarah. Abram entered the tent, his eyes on the ground, his mind miles away. He was breathing hard. Sarah was preparing a cloak. She watched him as he walked to the back corner and collapsed on the cushions with a sigh. She recognized the bodily weariness of a divine encounter. "The Lord has spoken to you again, hasn't he?" There was a pause. "Yes." It usually took Abram a while before he could talk about these encounters, so Sarai pulled her needlework up close again where she could see, another reminder of her aging body. But now her hands were trembling. She dropped them back into her lap. What had the Lord said? "Ishmael!" Hagar was calling her son, and the name pierced through Sarai like an arrow. She looked through the open flap and saw Hagar hand her son supplies to carry to the cooking fire. The boy was 13 and began to look like a man. He was his father's delight, the flesh of his flesh, but not of hers. The Lord had promised Abram offspring, but it was a deep, bewildering grief that he had granted it through Hagar, her own maidservant, and worse, it had been her own idea. Sarah? She looked over at Abram. What did he just call her? "Yes, I called you Sarah. The Lord has changed your name." The Lord spoke of her? Her heart sped with a rush of hope-fueled adrenaline. "He changed my name? What do you mean?" "You are not merely a princess. You will be the mother of kings. The Lord said, I will bless her, and moreover, I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she shall become nations, kings of people shall come from her." Genesis 17:16. Sarah, God is going to give you a son, and through him nations. Sarah's whole being staggered. She steadied herself with her left hand and cupped her mouth with her right. Tears streamed. Grief, hope, and confusion churned inside her. A child? She had tried to bury the desire, and she felt fear at resurrecting it. Besides, she was 90. She hadn't had a feminine cycle for years. How could this possibly? I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing when the Lord spoke it. It was too much to take in. I said to him, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you." The familiar pain shot through Sarah again. But God said, "No, but Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac." Isaac. Ooh, her desire now had a name. Sarah mouthed it, but still had no voice. Yes, because the whole idea seemed so ludicrous that I laughed to myself. "But I can't. Husband, I'm 90 years old," Sarah began sobbing. "My body is no longer able to bear children. My time is past." Abram walked over and enveloped his wife in his arms. "I know, Sarah. We are powerless to have children, now more than ever. But if we've learned anything these 25 years, it's that our hope doesn't rest on our power to do anything. Our hope rests on the Lord's power. Our entire lives are built on what he's promised. The lives of our descendants must be built on his promise for generations before they ever occupy this land. Their survival will depend on them trusting the Lord's promises and not their own power. Should it really surprise us that the first descendant the Lord gives us is a reminder of this?" Sarah leaned on her husband. "Oh, my precious wife, our Isaac will always remind us, and many after us, that the Lord makes us laugh at the impossible." "Your faith strengthens me, Abraham." Sarah looked at it, puzzled. "Yes, the Lord changed my name too." Abraham smiled. A mother of nations needs a father of nations, doesn't she? Sometimes our difficult circumstances make it impossible for God to fulfill his promises. When we find God's promises unbelievable, as did Abraham and Sarah, God has exposed the boundaries of our faith. Boundaries he means to expand. Learning to rest in the promises of God occur in the crucible of wrestling with unbelief. Seasons, sometimes long seasons, when everything hangs in believing on God gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. Romans 4:17. If you're in such a season, as difficult as it feels, God is being incredibly kind to you, because it is in such seasons that we really learn that nothing is too hard for the Lord. Abraham and Sarah grew strong in their faith, Romans 4:20, because God pushed them to believe more than they thought was possible. For the sake of our joy, he does the same for you and me. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.